All right, welcome back. Of course, we are well ushering in the festive season, but there's a concern. When you look at the number of accidents that we've experienced so far, getting from point A to B is becoming a miracle, rather than just a normal thing. You know what, I moved from point A to B. In fact, somebody said, if you're afraid of dying alone, be a bus driver. I mean, somebody comes up with such an idea because of the kind of situations that we've had. We've had initiatives, but road accidents are still there. Today we want to understand the way forward and how we can actually prevent these accidents from happening. And we're joined this morning by Lee Kinyanjui, Chairman, the Board of the National Transport and Safety Authority. Welcome to the Power Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much.
Of course, you are the former Assistant Minister for Roads
Yes.
in the then coalition government.
Absolutely.
And of course, you became Chairman of now the authority just in September.
Yes.
It's about 3 months. So
yeah,
how
yeah.
has it been?
Well, I must say that when it is interesting in the sense that the challenges are also enormous, and we also came in at a time when the fatalities are normally high towards October, November, December. Is actually all the way up to January. And so you get into a new authority. Before you get your act together, you're nearly on a panic mode. But I must say that sometimes it's challenges that bring the best of you. And we've been very happy at the response we've been able to get from the public.
Yes. All right, just to understand the role of the National Transport and Safety Board Authority, perhaps you could tell us more about that.
Okay. Thank you. The National Transport and Safety Authority was formed by an Act of Parliament. That is the National Transport and Safety Authority Act 2012. And will, among others, take all functions that were previously under the Registrar of Motor Vehicles. So registration of all motor vehicles, motorcycles and everything is under the authority. Management of public transport sector is under the authority. Management of road safety is under the authority, including the awareness thereof, and all other matters pertaining to road safety. Of course, it is good to say that in some of the recommendations that have been put forward for the parastatals, they want to add the mandate of railway and pipeline also, so that safety within those two aspects is also enjoined. And therefore we'll be working closely with the other operators, more so as a regulator, to ensure that if it's railway and railway crossings and everything, and wherever the railway goes through, it is safe. Also for roads the same, because we're talking about encroachment and all those other issues. So essentially, in a nutshell, that is what the National Transport and Safety Authority is all about.
That also includes airline? Airline.
No. Aviation and marine is different,
yeah.
because internationally that is how it is. So it's land transport. So whether pipeline or road or railway, essentially that is where we are.
All right. Of course, this festive season, somebody sitting at home is really concerned about, now that I'm planning to perhaps go to Mombasa,
Yes.
I need to be very certain that when I start my journey, I'll get to Mombasa safely. The fact is, the standards and quality of our roads have been improving.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the driving, the standards and quality are really low, deteriorating. Why is that?
Thank you. I first want to admit that indeed it's true that the number of accidents have gone up. With the more roads we have done, the more accidents we've had. In fact, you will want to remember earlier there was a common phrase that if you had an accident, they would say that he was trying to avoid a pothole, then he
Yeah,
crashed.
absolutely. Nowadays,
So then we did away with the potholes. And so what the guys do is fly now. Instead of driving slowly, the speeds have really gone up. In fact, you will realize that most of the roads, the newly done roads, the bypasses, thicker roads, as soon as it is commissioned, the next thing is you're talking of fatalities. So I think Kenyans have also not learned to use these resources responsibly. So that if you're driving from here to up country, you want to try how fast your car can go. You don't want anybody to overtake you. And that way you become a danger not only to yourself, but also to other road users. And I think, like you said, the issue is not so much about the roads. I think it's about us as pedestrians, number one, and then number two as drivers. Because also we have a big problem with pedestrians, because even where you have a designated crossing, zebra crossing, they will not use that one. They would rather go and walk across, sometimes a mother carrying a kid crossing a 4-lane road. So we have serious challenges in terms of the public being able to appreciate their role on the road. And also the drivers, starting from PSV, because I guess the bigger challenge we have is with the PSV, because of the pressures of work. Many of them see it just as work. You want to make as much money as possible. Most of them are not on any permanent basis, so if you're on this matatu, make the most you can today. Tomorrow you don't know whether you'll be there. So the human aspect in the whole driving thing has completely been compromised. And that is where we are picking from. That a public transport sector that is purely commercial, they want to make as many trips as they can. If there's traffic jam, they'll try and go by the side. If they can overload, they will do it. And I'm sure you recall, like the Mtulele bus had over 20 passengers in excess of the stated capacity. So, and not just overloading in terms of passenger, even cargo. A lot of the buses, before they take off to go to Western or Mombasa, they will carry iron sheet, building materials, and everything. So even before it comes to load the passengers, it's already almost full. So I think all we are trying to say is that we are probably at the lowest we can ever be. And I think it's time for us as a country, and everybody has a responsibility in this, to turn the tide.
Tell us the changes that are intended because of that act that I saw in the press. In a nutshell, what changes are you envisaging that will change our habits of driving?
Yes. Thank you. I think we would want to work in a near scientific way. And the first thing we say is that we have nearly 3,000 fatalities every year. Out of these 3,000, we have seen that about 80% of the accidents are caused by what you call human error. Human error is about your judgment, the decisions you make on the road. So the part we really want to focus on is actually how we can be able to upgrade your judgment and how you behave as a driver or as a pedestrian on the road. And to that effect, then, we therefore look at the driver. We start with the driver. And we look at what have you gone through to make you a driver? Whatever you, when you went to the driving school, what constituted, what was your curriculum? And a closer look at our driving curriculum, one is that different schools teach you different things. The mandatory lessons should be about 22, but some people are actually getting out with even 10, some even with 5, because it's purely a commercial venture. And we have not been very keen in terms of supervision. So the moment you leave private sector without supervision and without clear standards, then that is where we go. Then number two, even though the quality is poor, we're also talking in terms of you're trained as a, we've never seen a school training people to become PSV drivers. So as it is today, if you have your normal driving license, after 3 years, you're automatically qualified to drive a PSV. So there is no training about how to drive these buses, about customer care, about human beings and all that. So we have a big problem. Again, you go to the heavy commercial vehicles, you have seen all these drivers who drive the 22 tire sort of things. But the question again is, there is no school that teaches you that. So as long as you've been in the road for a couple of years with your canter or other lorry, you qualify to do the bigger job. So I think we are saying that there's a serious problem with our training, and I think we must all take responsibility. Lastly, also, the document that you have as your driving license, I'm sure you've seen, it's a red booklet. It's written East Africa, Kenya. It was actually designed way back when you had the East African community. That's in the early 60s. The document is not tamper-proof, meaning it's easily replicated. So it is also true that maybe about 40% of the driving licenses we have out there are not genuine. So as long as you have people who don't qualify to be on the road being on the road, then you will never be safe. And therefore, we must start from that point of view. And maybe to answer Mutege's question, therefore, what we have done is that we are embarking on a curriculum review to ensure that when you go for your driving tests, wherever you go across the country, there's going to be standards. And we want to test not just how you balance the clutch and the accelerator. That is probably 30% of the story. But currently, that is the whole story, you know. So it's about road courtesy. It's about other road users. It's about the value of life that you're carrying along with you. We want you also to appreciate when you tell you don't drink and drive. Why are we saying that? Is it just a campaign against alcohol, or what is the principle behind it? When you tell you that when you're tired driving and you're driving, your judgment is compromised. We would want you also to understand it at that level. What compromises your judgment? And once people understand why they are being told not to do certain things, then certainly all those things will change. So the review of the curriculum is one, and it is ongoing, and we are sure by January we should have a new curriculum from the motorcycle, and I'm sure you appreciate that that the border borders and the motorcycles are again our new danger in town. So, but again, I'm sure you've not seen any driving schools really doing that test. So what the young men are doing is go to a playing field, go around maybe a couple of times.
And that's it, you're qualified.
You're qualified. And you go there, you're waiting for customers, and the mother comes with 2 or 3 kids. That's money. So you take that kid, and that may be your first job, and you have to go maybe even from here to, I don't know, wherever. So I think there are serious challenges. And I think it's also unfortunate that we had to wait it to come this low, because like I said, I don't think we can go lower than we are. So you'll have a curriculum for motorcycles, for your personal vehicle, for the heavy commercial, and also for PSVs. Now, once we come with this curriculum, we are saying that we want to do a mandatory testing of drivers. And we specifically want to start with the PSV and the heavy commercial, because like I said, these are the 2 categories, in my opinion, that have been a major contributor in terms of accidents. In fact, if you look at over the weekend, it was a bus and a trailer. And the one we had in Salga was equally a bus, an easy coach, and a trailer. So a bus, a trailer have nearly been a constant across this. And like I said, of course, most of the drivers were previously turn boys. They're given a few rounds, and finally they become drivers. So we want to target these people. And then secondly, I talked about the driving license, that it is not tamper-proof. So what you're doing also is now to come up with a smart driving license that, one, cannot be tampered with. And then number 2, it will be smart to the extent that your data, all the details about you, your history as a driver, will be on that particular document, which essentially means if you come and you want to get a job in this bus company, they will be able to look at you and know what kind of a driver you have been. And I'm sure you're also aware that even in the corporate world today, if you want to get a job, they will want to know whether you paid your loan at the university. Isn't it? You know, it's really unrelated, but it's really an issue. But we would want to elevate road safety to the level that even if you want to become an executive in a company, it is also important to know how you treat other people on the road. And therefore it will say, on this date you are overspeeding, on this date you are behaving in one manner or the other, and that data will make it possible for especially the people in the transport industry, because you will commit an offense here and quickly go to another company, and that company has no way of knowing what sort of a driver you have been. So we believe that with better training and a tamper-proof driving license that gives you a history also, is going to be a new beginning in terms of moving forwards.
There is also an issue of inspection of vehicles.
Yes.
What changes are going to be made?
Thank you.
Public transport vehicles are normally inspected.
Yes. And
many people don't go to the inspector. In fact, those stickers are issued. You can just buy it. You have your pickup or lorry. You organize, somebody will bring you a sticker. You don't have to take the vehicle there.
Yes. I think as we talk about road safety, there are 2 things we are looking at: the vehicle and the driver. Yeah. If the two aspects I've talked about, smart driving license and the training, will only take care of the driver. But good drivers with unroadworthy vehicles, the problem is still there. So what we said is that for PSVs and pickups, all of them undergo a mandatory inspection every year. That's what the law says. But in reality, that has not been quite happening, and it therefore became almost just a ritual. You pay this, you get it. In fact, even for your driving license, you just renew it, you pay. Nobody wants to know whether you still have the skills, whether your site is still intact. So you just pay and get your whatever going on. So what you're saying is that, one, we want to make sure that all vehicles that are due for testing go for testing. So the thing we are now trying to work on is to come up with an inspection certificate, again, that is tamper-proof, that cannot be replicated elsewhere. Then number 2, we degazetted the inspectors, like you have said, and largely because there was endemic corruption at that particular department. Maybe not everybody, but a good number of them had that particular problem. So we brought new inspectors, but you also know bringing new inspectors is just part of the story. What we need is also to bring new inspectors and new systems, because it's systems that work really, not individuals. And therefore we are working towards bringing new systems, automating also the inspection. And we would want, when the policeman stops you, he should be able to key in your registration number and know when you last went for inspection. So even if you have played games, finally when you go on the road, we can be able to tell. So this, with your registration, and like I said, we want to integrate all the information. It will be possible to know when you last went for inspection, when you last renewed your driving license, and whether it is valid and otherwise. So I think what we want is to have a one-stop, or whatever. We'll have a small gadget where the police can put this small smart thing, put the information, and get to know all about the vehicle, and also to do with the driver. And I think once we do that, the next phase will be probably to privatize. Because what you're saying is that there's nothing so magical about testing whether a vehicle can work. It's actually a mechanical thing. And most of the countries have gone that route. So we would want to do the actual work of now supervising and confirming whether they are doing the work as it should be, but not now being the people going to check whether the bolts and the nuts and the tires are working.
All right. Of course, there's something that we've seen currently where we have stringent traffic laws, we have hefty penalties for those who break those laws, but accidents are still there. How do we change that kind of culture so that people realize there are laws that must be followed, not broken all the time?
Perfect. Good question. One, I would want to say that there's no one single thing that you will do and you sort all your problems. It's a multiplicity of issues. We have talked about human behavior and the attitude that we must change. I think that is one aspect. Then the second level is the issue of motor vehicle inspection. And then thirdly will be enforcement. Because if you have because if you have laws that cannot be enforced, you really, and that's why people will do all manner of things and get away with it. So the impunity you see on the road is largely because people know nothing will happen. Other motorists may not be happy, but what will they do? It's also worth noting that traffic cases in Kenya are not a priority even in our courts. So if you have a traffic case, it can go on and on and on, maybe a year or 2 or 3. And to that effect, if you have committed a serious offense and it takes 3 years for you to get anywhere, then the whole matter is completely diluted. So to that effect, therefore, what we would want is we've been trying to